How did they build it? How? Machu Picchu, Peru. It was built in 1450 CE by the Inca and stands at 2,430 meters above sea level. So how did they get the stones up there? I mean, that's a big mountain, and apparently they pushed them. They didn't have a wheel. Also, look at those stones. They weigh up to 50 tons. They're perfectly aligned without using any type of mortar that keeps them together. The entire city also has a drainage system that keeps the entire plateau dry at all times. It's aligned to the stars, and it's consisted out of 150 plus buildings. So how did they build it? How? No idea. Your guess is as good as mine, so please tell me. How did they build it? The ancient city of Petra, Jordan. This area contains over 800 monuments and buildings, including tombs, a theater for over 8,000 people, temples, and many more. The historic view of Petra is that it was built around 500 BC by the nomadic Arabic tribe, the Nabateans. And at its prime, it's estimated to have housed over 30,000 people, around the same number like this TikTok community. Thank you guys. But yeah, you know the deal. What's odd about it? Besides the massive and super detailed buildings, like the monastery, which is 51 meters tall, and the treasury, which is 39 meters tall, we have no idea where all that rock went, and it must have been tons of it. The city also has an elaborate water system, and surprise, has astronomical purpose. The area right around it is 7,500 years older. And Petra itself was first described in 1300 BC in Egyptian texts, 600 years before it was allegedly built. Given the tools that they've had, I have no idea for how did they build it? How? Teotihuacan, Mexico. It is located 50 kilometers northeast of Mexico City and was built in 300 BCE by an unknown civilization. It consists of over 200 plus buildings, including the Pyramid of the Sun, which stands at 66 meters in height, and the Pyramid of the Moon, which stands at 43 meters of height. The entire complex is as big as 20 square kilometers and housed 150,000 residents at its prime. Also, the Avenue of the Dead, a 2.5 kilometer long, 40 meter wide street that was probably used for human sacrifices. There's also the Temple of the Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. It was partially destroyed, just as the Pyramid of the Sun was in restorations in 1910. It's also again aligned to the stars, but since there are no written records, we have no idea who built it. So, who built it? Who? How did they build it? How? Valley Temple, Egypt. It was built around 2500 BCE by Pharaoh Khafre, who by the way also built this bad boy. He reigned for a total of 26 years, that's quite impressive that he did all that. And his statue was actually found in the Valley Temple. The stones weigh up to 150 tons and are placed up as high as 12 meters. The stones we can see are also perfectly placed and bend around corners, just as the ones we can see in Machu Picchu and Cusco, Peru. And that's quite some distance. The foundation of the temple also looks older than the stones that are built up top. And they were quarried from the enclosure of the swings and feature water erosion, which is interesting according to geologist Robert Schoch, who visited the site in the 90s. Now, it hasn't rained like that in Egypt since at least 5000 BCE. The temple is also known as the House of Osiris, the Egyptian god of the underworld. So how did they build it? Why don't you tell me, honestly? God damn. How did they build it? How? The stone walls of Cusco, Peru. This ancient fortress was first built in 1100 CE by the Kilki culture. It was then expanded by the Inca in 1300 CE. The structure consists out of 3 terraces, formed by the massive stone walls 18 meters high and 540 meters long. The stones weigh up to 200 tons. And fit together perfectly like a pre-made puzzle without using any type of mortar. The fortress also has a drainage system, and looking at this air view, I would have loved to see what it looked like in its prime. But how did they build it? The most well-known theories include that they melted the stones, that they used acid water, or that aliens did. Yeah, no, but honestly, please tell me. How did they build it? Angkor Wat, Cambodia. Built in the early 12th century by King Sacsayhuaman II. Angkor Wat has a total size of 1,626 square kilometers, which is equal to 227,731 football fields. The whole structure is built without any mortar, fits together perfectly, made out of 5 to 10 million sandstone blocks, each of which are weighing as much as about a Honda Civic, and were quarried from a mountain 40 kilometers away. Why? Well, I bet the workers had fun. Speaking of the pyramids, Angkor means life to Horus in Egyptian. Angkor Wat consists of 72 temples, and the pyramids are in 72-degree longitude away from Angkor Wat. It of course is aligned to the stars, and could have represented the constellation of Draco in the year 10,500 BCE, which is indicated by older structures found below the complex. And a French dude in the 19th century said that Angkor Wat is better than anything the Greeks and Romans built. So when a structure made by another culture gets that high praise from a white dude at that time, you know it's incredible. How did they build it? Stonehenge. England in it. Stonehenge was a site starting 8000 BCE and was later completed in 1500 BCE. The stones, which are standing in a perfect circle, are made out of silicified sandstone and bluestone, which was carried from 240 kilometers away out of Wales. The heaviest stones are up to 9 meters high and weigh 45 tons. That's about 7.5 elephants. So the question is, what's the meaning of Stonehenge? Oh well, that's a good one. Similar to a lot of other ancient sites, it's aligned to the stars and it measures the solar and lunar cycle. And since there are 350 more sites across the same area, some astronomers assume that Stonehenge represents Saturn and other sites represent other planets in the sky. But no one seems to know its true meaning, so who the fuck builds a Stonehenge? We also don't really know that one, but people say giants or druids. So who do you think built it? Huh? Tell me now. What are you waiting for? Bitch. How did they build it? How? Ellora Caves, India. Well, it was done in 600 CE and it took them 18 years to carve it into a mountain. From top to bottom, it stands about 30 meters and they had to get 400,000 tons of rock removed. That's 60 tons a day. So what did they use? Yeah, so how did they build it? How? No idea. But it was preserved in cannabis, that's why it looks so crisp today. Crisp. How did they build it? How? Gobekli Tepe, Turkey. These 20 stone rings may not look like much on the first glance, but they rewrote human history. The site was found in 1994, and a German archaeologist went straight to work. And so they found these T-shaped pillars with lots of animal carvings on them. The pillars also weighed 20 tons, and a carbon dating test showed that the site was built in 10,000 BC, 5,000 years before the first known civilization of ancient Sumer. It's also of course aligned to stars. It's barely excavated, so who knows what more we'll find there. The site was abandoned and intentionally buried in 8000 BC. What did they have to hide? How did they build it? How? Chichen Itza, Mexico. It was built by the Maya around 400 CE. At its peak, 50,000 people lived on a space of 10 square kilometers. The most famous building is El Castillo, also known as the Temple of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god. It's 30 meters high and has 365 steps. And on the spring and fall equinox, you can see the god slithering down the stairs. Other buildings include the Temple of the Warriors and the Great Ball Court, where they play Quidditch or something. We don't actually know, but the winner got sacrificed, so the usual deal. Probably why there were so many bodies and treasures found in the sacred sea node. A steam bath. Hot. Now it gets really interesting. An observatory, where they really measured precisely the Venus cycle and also other celestial positions. The entire city was built on a flat handmade platform, and with those tools that would have taken a long time. And beneath El Castillo, there's an even older pyramid that features this red jaguar jade-studded throne. And beneath that, there's a cave system that looks weirdly similar to the Tree of Life. The whole city was abandoned in 1100 CE. What does this mean? No idea, but those two